Who is Paul Mitchell, the man expected to be announced as the new director of football at Manchester United if Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid for 25% of the club is accepted by the Glazer family? That's what we'll be discussing on today's show. But before we jump into that, please do make sure to smash a like on the video, and please do subscribe to the channel if this is your first time watching the show here. So let's give you a bit of a deep dive into Paul Mitchell. I'll run through all of the clubs that he's worked at before. I'll also give you an overview of some of the best players that Paul Mitchell has scouted and brought in over the last 5 to 10 years. Just to say, Paul Mitchell is a Manchester United fan. He is currently living in Manchester United after recently being at Monaco as the director of football. He moved back to Manchester recently. He's a boyhood Manchester United fan. If that means something to you, then obviously that's great. I think it is important that you have people who understand the DNA of Manchester United and somebody who is obviously from the local area, somebody who obviously knows what it means to be a Manchester United player and all the rest of it, I think is important. But obviously the most important thing is that they're the best in class. And I do think just from the off that Paul Mitchell is one of the best directors in football available at this current moment in time. So let's give you a bit of an overview of Paul Mitchell's history and where he started his career. So he started off at MK Dons as the chief scout, then moving over to Southampton a couple of years later. So some of the best players that Paul Mitchell discovered whilst he was at Southampton include Sadio Mane, who went on to be one of the best players in the Premier League, in my opinion. Dusan Tadic, who he got for only £10 million under Ronald Koeman. Again, a very, very good player. He also got Toby Alderweireld, who again, really, really good player. So in his time at Southampton, he did a really good job, I think. Identifying those three players is impressive, but all three of them are good players. Toby Alderweireld, obviously went on to be one of Tottenham's best centre-backs for a long, long time. Sadio Mane, in my opinion, one of the best Premier League players in the last kind of 10 years, I would say. When he was at Liverpool, he was absolutely unbelievable. And Tadic, maybe not on the same level as Sadio Mane, but, at Southampton, he did a really, really good job. So after that, obviously, he was quite hot property and a lot of people were interested in bringing him to the club. He then moved over to Tottenham. His time at Tottenham wasn't as impressive. The best signing that he made at his time in Tottenham was Heung-min Son, who again is, in my opinion, one of the best players in the Premier League over the last 5 to 10 years. Even now, I think he's an absolutely unbelievable player. I would love to see him at Manchester United. Obviously, that's never going to happen. But for £22 million Tottenham paid for him, I reckon he is an unbelievable signing. He also discovered Dele Alli. Obviously, you're thinking Dele Alli isn't very good anymore, but Dele Alli at Tottenham was one of the best players in the Premier League for a season or two. Obviously, he was in the England squad, and he did really, really well for Tottenham. So again, another good player that was discovered by him. He also discovered Kieran Trippier, who he signed from Burnley back in 2015. Obviously, this was before Kieran Trippier went to Atletico and then is obviously now with Newcastle United. So in his time at Tottenham, his best three signings, in my opinion, were Son, Dele Alli and Kieran Trippier, who were all, I don't want to say nobodies, but before that they were, playing for lesser teams, Son was at Dele Alli was at MK Dons, Son was at Bayern Leverkusen, and Kieran Trippier was at Burnley. So he identified three players, brought them into Tottenham, and all three of those players have gone on to be really good, apart from maybe Dele Alli, who's obviously had a bit of a rough time. After that, he got the job at Red Bull Leipzig, working alongside Ralf Rangnick, who I know a lot of you really, really like, me included. At his time at Red Bull Leipzig, he did really, really good again. And his most notable signing was none other than Mr. Christopher Nkunku, who is, in my opinion, one of the best players out of the Bundesliga in recent years. Obviously, his time at Chelsea so far hasn't been great because of injuries, but I do think that he will come. And when he starts firing, Christopher Nkunku, he's going to be unbelievable for Chelsea. So that's a name to keep your eye on if you're unfamiliar with him. They also discovered Amadou Hadira, who they signed from Salzburg. So he got a couple of good players when he was in Leipzig. Maybe not as many as his time at Southampton and Tottenham, but obviously it is worth noting that he was only there for 1 or 2 seasons. So Southampton, Tottenham, he was there for a good 3 or 4 years, whereas Red Bull Leipzig was just a couple of years alongside Ralf Rangnick, and they did identify some really, really good players. After that, he went over to New York Red Bulls. Didn't really discover anybody over there, but I mean, it's a different kettle of fish, There wasn't anybody notable to mention. After that, he then went over to Monaco. Now, I'll be honest with you, his time at Monaco had mixed reviews. if you listen to any of the Monaco fans, I don't think they were that impressed with his time there. And he's one of those directors of football that's been remembered more for his work earlier on in his career, his time at Tottenham, Southampton, Red Bull Leipzig, than his time at Monaco. So from his time at Monaco, I wouldn't really say there's much to shout about personally. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a massive issue for me. Sometimes it just doesn't work out with clubs. Maybe they didn't have the budgets that he was wanting to. Maybe they just wanted to sell players. I don't know exactly what goes on at Monaco, but he did have a good proven track record at the other three clubs. Now, I'm going to give my opinion on whether I think he would be a good director of football for Manchester United. I think he would be the perfect one, to be honest. I think the fact that he's wanted this Manchester United job for all of his career. That's what, some journalists are saying in the UK this morning, that this has been his dream job. He's obviously from Manchester originally, which I think maybe isn't the most important thing, but I think it's important in the sense of that he's a Manchester United fan. He understands what it is to be a Manchester United, player. Obviously, he hasn't played for the club, but he understands what the Manchester United philosophy is. And he's also a fan, so he obviously wants to bring out the best in the club. For me personally, I think he is one of the better options. I think Ralf Rangnick would also be good. I mean, for me, the dream team would be him and Ralf Rangnick as kind of a director of football / CEO shared roles. I think that would be unbelievable. That's what I would do if I was Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming into this club. And I think, you know what, even if it was Sheikh Jassim taking over, I think they'd be looking at similar directors of football, or at least they should be. I don't think it's, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes, he brings Paul Mitchell, and if Sheikh Jassim comes, which looks unlikely, he's going to bring someone we've never heard of. I think it will be one of those two people, either Ralf Rangnick or Paul Mitchell. Now, I want you guys to let me know in the comments section what you think of all of the people we've discussed on this video. Do you think those are good enough pedigree to warrant him to get the job at Manchester United, to discover people like Sadio Mane, Dusan Tadic, people like that? Or do you think maybe we need something better? And if you have somebody in mind, please do let me know in the comments section below. This has been Daily Red Devil. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you leave. And please do subscribe bottom right-hand corner if this is your first time watching. And of course, let me know what you think about Paul Mitchell. Should he be the next Manchester United director of football? I cannot wait to see what you guys have to say. I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace out.